The meeting will now come to order. We're now holding the April meeting of Fayette County School Corporation Board of School Trustees. Tonight we have middle school students who will be leading us in the pledge. Would you stand as we pledge? All right, have the pledge.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight our our school highlights are from the middle school. So Ms. Denham, we'll turn over to you and the students that are with you.
Well, good evening. It is my pleasure for Connersville to highlight a couple of our students. Tonight, our goal was focused on basically two things. One, electronic devices at Connersville Middle School and where we are in that process, and how our staff and our students are using My Big Campus, which I know you're being introduced to, so we're going to try to give you a bigger picture from a student's viewpoint. In February, during our Professional Development Day, all of our staff at Connersville Middle School were received iPads, and that was primarily to introduce some of them to the iPads, but also our bigger goal was how are we going to be able to use this as an instructional tool to start. And with that, staff made literacy lessons and were able to upload them so that they could utilize those second semester as part of their instruction. We also were recipients of an innovation grant which enabled us to be able to buy a cart of iPads for the next school year, which we're very excited about, because what we want to do is shift from the use of iPads as an instructional tool to it being a learning tool for our students. So that is our process and our goal as we move to next year. Our goal is really to try to find the funds to purchase a cart for each team so that they can use that within. That is our goal. I know the high school at our last board meeting was able to talk a little bit about bringing your own devices. So at this point, iPads will be our device that we're focusing with instruction and learning. If our students did have an iPad in the classroom, some of what you're going to see this evening, they could have done from their seat, or as a teacher could be moving around their classroom and using that tool with engaging them into the curriculum and sharing presentations as well. Tonight, what I am going to do is I have two students that were recommended highly by their teachers, which I was very pleased to have them come and be willing to come. First of all, I'd like to introduce Brett Gray. Brett is a 7th grade student on the Lions team. He was recommended by Mrs. Greason. They did a research project in art class. And I'm going to go ahead and have Brett come up, and he's going to be at the instrument panel here. He's going to be steering the ship, and what he's going to explain to you is what you're going to be viewing up here. Now, My Big Campus, before he gets too far, is a platform that we'll be using, and we're using K-12 for students to be able to use to access lessons and and also to store their work and their projects. And this is where also teachers are going to be able to make those lessons available to students as we move through that process. So Brett, I'm going to turn it over to you, and speak loudly, and please share with the board what you did and how you used My Big Campus to accomplish it.
I used My Big Campus for a research project over the Mona Lisa, and it was really helpful because I had all my stuff over the project in one place, and I didn't have to worry about going through all my documents to find it. Over here, I have my art group, and this is where my art teacher, Mrs. Greason. Mrs. Greason, this is where she put like just websites and stuff to help us find all our research that we needed. And here's some of the websites she gave us.
One thing I can, as we're waiting for technology to catch up to Brett, is all of our language arts classes are using My Big Campus for research. So our goal is, when 8th grade this year moved to the high school, that students are already familiar with My Big Campus. It will be one last thing that they will have to do in order to get them acclimated.
Right here is just Word documents that she put together that will help us through our project. And down here is our online resources and just websites and stuff that will help us. And all these websites just gave us information over our topic. And it was really helpful to have it all in one place so we didn't have to look through a bunch of websites to find our information. And right here we have note cards, and these are helpful because we could just put it right on our Word document, and as we were filling in our PowerPoint, we didn't have to keep going back to the website to find our information. So it was just right here in one click. And I can show you one of those note cards. Alright, here's one of our internet note cards. And we just filled in the information as we went, and it was nice just to be able to type all our information in one place, and it helped on My Big Campus because we wouldn't lose it with all our papers. So it just helped keep it in one spot and keep it organized. And
Did you ever work on it at home?
we had the option to, but I never had to.
Because you can get My Big Campus from home if you
Mhm.
have the computer.
And it also helped whenever we're doing our PowerPoint just to switch over. And I can show you how we done that.
One thing is that's coming up, Mrs. Greason commented, because you had this first semester,
Yeah.
and I know she was grading some of these over the holidays as well. What she did find is she was able to be at home grading these even in the snow days, and she was able to actually take time and do that from a home setting versus having to be in the school setting, which is what the case has been in the past.
Alright, here's my PowerPoint. And one thing that I really liked about it was that we could switch right over to our note card from here. I don't know where my note card went. But as we were typing, our note card would be right in, we would just be able to click right down here at the bottom, and our note card would be right there for us to get our information off of and just type it right in. So that was really helpful. Overall, I really like My Big Campus. And it's also helpful as if we forget our homework or whatever, we're always able just to message one of our friends and ask for the page numbers or whatever it is on there too. It's really helpful.
Thank you, Brett.
Very good,
Excellent
thanks.
job. All right, Lauren, I'm going to introduce you. Brett he showed me how he was going back and forth between his note card and his PowerPoint, which typically you would go from here and you transfer it from paper into the PowerPoint. So that was a feature I had not observed students doing. I thought that was really a great feature I haven't had a chance to do. Okay, what I'm going to do now is introduce Lauren Truesdale. Lauren is an 8th grade student on our Diamonds team. So Lauren's has a perspective a little even different than Brett because she has been through the 7th grade year with not having access to a platform such as this and being able to experience that this year as an 8th grade. One thing that she just did is she logged into her own personal site. So this is a secured site only Lauren can access. If you don't log out, however, that could present a problem. So we're learning through that process as well. Lauren, I'm going to turn it over to you and tell them about yours. Is a little more extensive. Stepped a little further.
I did this through my FACS class, and we did a project on child development. And if you can see, our teacher, as we were going through like the week, as our project got more extensive, she could leave like a status, I guess, like a post on what we needed to get done instead of having to take time out of the class. We could take, once we logged onto our My Big Campus, we could see what she wanted us to get done for the day. You can see she's did that all through the week. But when we started out, all of our classes are on here, so not just for facts, but every class we could do, they could have a project on here. But what she did was you go to resources, and the teacher just has the project listed, and she'll put the requirements, and right here you can see it, she listed, this is what we needed to go over, the criteria for the project. And as you scroll down, these are the rubrics and the note cards that you used to fill out information on your project. And here are websites and places you can go to find the information, so you didn't have to just Google random things. It was all there, and it was a safe site. And here, when you go to get to it, you go to Drive, and it's all right in this area. So you can see that you have several note cards that you can access when you go to the project. And so here's where you put the citation information, which you can find on the website. And down here is where you list all of your information. It's really easy. Instead of having to just fill out random facts or note cards, it's really organized and easy to access. And it's written out for you, so you just have to fill it in. But once you fill out a note card, you go back to your Drive, and all you have to do is go to New, and you can just upload it right there, and it's really easy. As long as you don't forget to upload it, it's right there the next day, so you don't have to worry about leaving your paper at home or anything like that. So it's really easy, accessible.
Lauren, talk to them too about when you were in class, you were able to go in, we talked about time management and using to make the most of instructional time, and I think that's what my Big Campus is really going to be an asset to our teachers and our students. One day, Mrs. Carmody shared this with us, who had recommended Lauren. One day she kind of pulled a fast one on you. What did she tell you?
Instead of raising our hand during class, we had to message her if we had a question on our project.
I think as she put it, she decided to just get into their world and decided that she hoped that they would think a little more about their question and the process of asking it, and probably some of those questions they figured out on their own through some problem solving versus immediately. But she was carrying her iPad the whole time, moving around the class, messaging back and forth with the kids. So that's where the iPad became a great instructional tool for her, while the students are working on laptops, which is probably the best way to actually utilize My Big Campus when it comes to working on it.
And the good thing, My Big Campus, I'll show you. I don't really know how many of you have Facebooks or anything like that, but it's it's set up just like a.
It's an inside joke.
It's set up just like a social media site, and you can follow people and you can post statuses or whatever, and so really it's really student friendly, it's something you would do at home or something like that.
Do all of your teachers use it?
I've had a facts project, my science teacher has used it, and my English and social studies, we had a combined project from there, so I've had classes in all of there except for math.
So they don't go out there daily and post the homework in case a student misses a day or anything like that?
We've really used it for big essay projects or research projects. Not
a daily communication tool.
Anything else you might
Well, the one thing I could share with this, if you ever hear in the research or in the news about a flipped classroom, that's one of the big pieces now. In a flipped classroom, My Big Campus is a base that could help us do that. And what it means is when you were in the classroom, you're actually doing more of the higher level thinking and inquiry type components. And then when the reading or the homework, or not just homework, or the activity sheets or whatever, could be done at home through My Big Campus, so that the teacher can communicate. It's just one of the elements. It kind of just lets the classroom learning go on beyond the 50-minute period that you have, but it also engages kids.
One thing Lauren shared, when she was placed in a tier, she was placed in a higher tier, so there was a higher expectation, and you had to include one extra resource, which was, what was that?
It was in my tier, I had to do something called a podcast, which
Why don't you just explain to them how to podcast? Might probably take a little bit of time to load it since.
well, it's a podcast is instead of like a video or like just a paper on like the internet, it was you listen to someone discuss a topic. And so while you were listening, everyone on the computer, if you had to listen to a video or listen to a podcast like I did, you had your own set of headphones, and so you could do it at your own pace. And like a podcast, you just listen to it, and you can minimize the windows. So if you wanted to, like, if this was, say that this was something you were doing research on, you could open up another window like in your Word document and fill out information as you're going, so you didn't have to keep clicking back and forth or writing stuff down. So it was really easy and like really easy to maneuver through.
And so, and I like that there's a tier, so there's a way to challenge. And I think Ms. Kellum brought up a really good question, this is something that can and will expand to where students who are absent will have access, but it's not always sure if they have access at home in the technology. So that's where there may be a limitation depending, on the student. But this is a great start. I'm very excited with the staff embracing this, and for our kids to be getting exposure and utilizing the site. They maneuver through it much quicker than I do. And I was like, whoa. But, and I appreciate them sharing with you. I just wanted you to have an insight into what's going on inside the classrooms right now and how technology has become, and the My Big Campus has become a platform that really starts to lift our technology to another level. When we talk about college inquiry readiness and we talk about college, this is something they will experience on a day-to-day basis. In a college, they may use Blackboard or another platform, but in any respect, they won't see paper. They will never see paper. They will access their lessons. They will submit their lessons. They will message with their staff. So I think we're actually preparing them as we move along that course as well. And Lauren, thank you. Make sure you're welcome. And I want to thank Brett and Lauren, and I appreciate them stepping up and being willing to share what they're doing in the classroom at Connersville.
Very good. Thank you.
And Brett and Lauren and Mrs. Denham, thank all three of you for presenting tonight. Appreciate your being here, and parents that came to support, appreciate your being here. So we're going to move now into our business part, and you're certainly welcome to stay, but if you would like to leave, this would be a good time.
Mrs. Dennis made the comment that you all have a My Big Campus account. Has anyone gotten into their My Big Campus account? We haven't really trained you or anything. She thought we did. But you actually have one, and this is a platform that we could all share documents. I've actually loaded a couple things for the board in there, but we just haven't had time to investigate. So it's just.
Is that why we didn't respond?
I didn't pose a question. I just put in some things from the school board magazine. I thought that were interesting that aligned with the work that we're doing. So I'm just going to keep putting things in there as I find them. So when we get the time to get ready, we'll have things to pull out of there. So.
Okay, I think we can move ahead. Dr. Hodges will be back in. So need a motion to approve the agenda as submitted or amended. I guess it's been amended. So as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as amended or submitted, whichever.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hilton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all those in discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Are there any patron comments on agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move on. Next is our consent agenda, which contains approval of minutes from the regular business meeting of March 11-14, the executive minutes of 3-18-14, and special session of 3-18-14. The personnel report, which contained retirements, resignations, leaves of absence, etc. The approval of March 2014, the claims number 34856 and 35197. And I will call your attention, I believe also included in that is a, from Trish Fields, pre-approval for a workshop. Am I correct with that? Yes, okay. Let's see, where am I here? Then we have acceptance of donations from Contract Industrial Tooling valued at $470 for WTCC welding program. A donation from Fayette Tool and Engineering Company of $500 for Fayette Central Elementary. A donation of $6,515.93 for 6 grant projects from the Fayette County Education Fund.
Mr.
What is your
President,
opinion? Yes, Ms. Savoy?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Moving now into the action items, we have a personnel report. Dr. Bayer.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett, Dr. Hodges, members of the board. Just a few persons for your consideration this evening. First of all, Shauna Slagle is a special education assistant, CHS, effective March 7th. Extracurricular, Ben Felver, to serve as the social studies department chair at CHS, effective at the beginning of the 2014-15 school year. Tina Rader as assistant softball coach, CHS, effective March 14, 2014. In addition, this is the time of the year that we send our letters of intent to reemploy for 14-15. This is a reasonable assurance letter securing employment for those that are less than 12-month employees. This is done for their secure employment and also Texas School Corporation from unemployment claims. So those items for your consideration this evening, Mr. Burchett.
Okay, you've heard the personnel report. What is your action you'd like to take?
I move to accept the report.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Do I hear a second? Okay, Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carried.
Thank you.
Now we have the elementary discipline plans, codes of conduct, whatever. Dr. Reekie.
Thank you. Mr. Burchett, members of the board, Dr. Hodges. Last month, you were given the student handbook revisions for those for our different schools, plus the code of conduct and the bus policy piece. And prior to that, we had not received feedback from our attorney. At the time, he was still reviewing the documents. He has reviewed those documents, and we have made a few additional changes on there. On your link, you can see those, or there's a paper copy set over here and over there if you want to see them. They are in pink. I made them a different color. They are minimal, but they are some language to comply, make sure that we are with the new Indiana code, especially with the bullying language. And he also did some articulating between the different levels so that the common language was used at the elementary, middle, and high school where appropriate. And he helped with some of that language, etc. So each of the principals took it back to their committees, made the slight changes, and have updated their documents now. And so I'd like to present those to you for approval this evening.
Okay. What is your feelings about this?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Boy. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, we have the continuation of the food service agreement with Chartwells for 2014-15 school year. Dr. Bayer.
Thank you again, Mr. Burchett. 2011-2012, the Board of Trustees entered into a contract with Chartwells to provide food services to our school corporation. Based on that contract, there's an initial contract 11-12 and then 4 one-year renewals, the way that the contract is written. I'll ask for your continuation for the 14-15 school year. This will be our 3rd renewal. And this includes a 2% increase for management and administrative fees, and those are set by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which oversees the Consumer Price Index regionally for our area. Basically, the 2% increase results in a penny increase, .074 to .075 per meal for the management fee, and then $173 more per month for administrative fee, including that 2% increase. Financial gains, and we'll look at that at the end of the conclusion of the school year to give us an idea and help us project for 14-15 and our revenue stream, and looking at that, that review will be done and shared with you later on in this next school year. I believe Chartwells is on the right track, and that the quality of meals they've provided, the multiple food choices, promoting nutritional and good health throughout their educational opportunities for our students and staff. I'd ask that we approve and continue our work with Chartwells for the 14-15 school year.
Dr. Bayer, I have a question. I'm a little confused. Okay, the price per meal per student, is that?
No, that's the, I would
That's
refer to that in
not-
my other report. That's the lunch prices. I'll refer to that in my report at the end. That is
Okay,
nothing
so
to do
that's
with
not
this.
a part
No,
of
no, it
this,
is
because I
not.
didn't really understand this 2% increase.
That's what we pay as far as they're managing our program. It's the management fee and administrative fee, and that's what they charge per meal that they charge us.
Okay, and so that comes from what fund on our part?
As our food service fund.
Okay,
It all comes out of the food service fund.
okay.
Mhm.
Just wanted to clarify
Yeah, that's
All
that.
the revenues generated from food service are deposited in, and then we just pay these, the per meal charge and the management fee out of food service for what they do for us.
Okay. Okay. What action would you like to take, Board?
Mr. President, I'll make the motion for the continuation of food services agreement with Chartwells for the 2014-2015 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Do I hear a second?
Second.
That was Mr. Spurlock? Was that you? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Jones. Okay. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Approval of the Hall of Fame 2014 inductees, Dr. Hodges.
Board, the committee that you approved met on March the 20th, and we are pleased to bring recommendations for Hall of Fame of Dr. Tala Clay, Donald McElfresh, and Becky Morris for your approval and consideration this evening.
Okay, what is your
I
pleasure?
move to approve.
Okay, Mr. Hilton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Spurlock. Any discussion, comments, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Now we move to the policy updates. Dr. Hodges.
Board, I did send some communication to you this week related to some comments that were received on policy, but I'm here this evening to present to you policy 3.21, policy 4.15, 4.16, 4.18, 5.62, and 6.07 for your consideration and approval. This is second reading. At the end of second reading, why we will bring a recommendation to you for adoption. And for the audience, those policies deal with staff member evaluation, graduation requirements, grading system at Connersville High School, academic hall of fame for Connersville High School, the wellness policy, and the community use of school property.
Okay, I have a comment that regarding policy number 418. I just think it's a bit unclear. The reason that I question or have the comment is that we talk about early graduates being a part of the honor graduates. And throughout the paragraph, it mentions 6 semesters for 3-year graduates, blah, blah, will be eligible. And I have no problem with that at all. But the thing that I question, I think it's confusing, in the next to the last sentence, it says, honor graduate students must. That's the word, must. Complete 8 semesters of high school to be eligible. Well, if it says we must complete 8, how can we go back up and say that 6 semesters puts them as honor graduates? Now, I've had some discussion regarding this, and I think perhaps Mr. Judd too, that in parentheses it has early graduates must have prior approval of the high school principal to be eligible. I read that as being that they've got to have the principal's approval to be a 3-year graduate. That doesn't really have anything to do with the honor graduate. So what it says is confusing to me is honor graduates must complete 8 semesters. That says to me, wipe everything else because it's got to be 8 semesters. And I just think that that needs to be reworded.
Two things. One, where it makes reference to 7 semesters and 6 semesters earlier, and that's talking about when the GPA will be calculated. And the fact that it says early graduates must have prior approval, this is speaking only for the honor grads. It isn't referencing back to anything else, but I do think early graduates have high school principal's approval anyway. But the thought being, and if someone wants to suggest a word to change that way, we certainly can. The thought is, wanting to establish a bar, saying this is really the rule. There are some exceptions. A high school principal can deal with those exceptions, but this is the rule that we think is the basis for consideration for that.
So would the word early honor graduates help clarify the understanding of it? In that area that's in parentheses, the last sentence?
I think the only thing that I can come up with, and I'll refer to the board president, if you want to change the must to a should, I don't know how much that weakens that position. But if that's what seems to be the point of contention, if somebody has a better wordsmith word to use there, open to that. But I think that was our intent. Randy, this is a result of an issue that we've had in the past. How are we going to resolve that so we don't find ourselves in the same? And so we've worked with Dr. Flowers some last year and worked with Mr. Judd some this year on that. So I don't know, Randy, if you want to speak to that or not.
I think the whole issue was we wanted those students who were going to be 3-year early graduates to be considered honor graduates if they met the other qualifications. However, we did not want students to all of a sudden say, hey, I've got my 40 credits or my 46 credits, whatever the requirement will be next year. I'm not coming back next year, so I want to graduate early. You know, they could do this the second semester or 2 weeks before graduation, say, I'm not coming back. And then they might get to go to prom, and then after they went to prom, because they were considered a senior and graduating, they'd say, well, you know, I might come back. So to be an early graduate, you have to have the approval of the principal, and you have to qualify. And I thought our wording, I guess because I knew what I meant to say or what we wanted to say, it wasn't confusing to me. I think the intent is just to make sure that if they're going to try to be an honor graduate in 3 years, that they're approved as a 3-year graduate.
I agree. I mean, I'm totally with what your thinking is, but I don't know if down the road somebody comes back to this, well, you know, what does this really say? And that's what I'm concerned with. I'm not so sure we just can leave that sentence out. Save the confusion, because we have identified who can be, how they can be, and what the qualifications could be. And then finally, the last thing says, early graduates must have prior approval of the high school principal to be eligible. What else do we need to say?
Left unsaid is to be eligible to be considered for the Academic Hall of Fame. This is just strictly speaking to the Academic Hall of Fame.
I think you have to mention the early graduates, otherwise you've already stated that you have to have 8 semesters. You have to be a four-year graduate. If you don't say early graduates can qualify, then we're back to where the policy was. Early graduates can qualify with permission of the principal.
I think we're missing my concern. My concern must have 8 semesters, when you've talked everything else above was not that.
That's the sentence you want to leave out. It's not really the last sentence.
Right.
It's the second to
The
the
one
last
that
sentence.
says honor graduate students must complete
Do you
8
see the
semesters of
difference?
high school
Okay.
to be eligible.
You're welcome.
That's my issue with
I'm
that.
open to change that if you want to strike that one.
That's just my feeling.
Or you need to include both, the 4-year graduates and the 3-year graduates in that last sentence. I can't see it, we're having technology issues over here, all of us.
Yeah, mine's not working either.
We can't
Let me make this
Sorry.
suggestion. Why don't you table policy 4.18, we'll bring it back.
Okay,
Good call.
yeah.
Because I do think, I'm not comfortable leaving that sentence out. I don't have a problem if we can find a word that doesn't water that down too much. I'm not opposed to bringing that as a recommendation, but I think you need to have some minimum standard that you're going to look at for Hall of Fame. And there again, this is just talking about Hall of Fame, and this is a local Fayette County School Corporation recognition, so there's not guidance from the state or anything else, but we're just, I guess, rather than drag this out, that would be my suggestion to you, is you approve the other policies, table policy 4.18. I'll get with Mr. Judd, I'll get with some folks that may be better at wordsmithing than I, and we'll bring back another recommendation. And really, when you talk about policy development, that's why you have 2 readings. This is all, it's not a problem, it's all well within why we have conversation and discussion on these things.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
that we table policy 418, Academic Hall of Fame, CHS, and approve the other policies.
Okay, the motion has been made to table policy 418 and approve the rest. Mr. Taylor, do I hear a second? I'm sorry?
I'll second the
Second.
motion.
Mr. Hilton. Any other questions, concerns, whatever? Okay, all of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Next on the agenda is recommendation for approval of bids for CHS sidewalks and curbs and Spartan Bowl HVAC demolition. Ms. Collett.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. We received 1 bid from G&M Contracting for the CHS sidewalk and curb project at $41,900. We received 2 bids related to the demolition of 4 HVAC units on top of Spartan Bowl, with the lowest and most responsive bidder being Leighton Wood at $3,625. It's our recommendation that you approve both of these projects to be completed this summer. Thank you.
Okay.
I move to accept bids.
Okay, Mr. Hilton has moved that we accept the bids. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Savoy. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carried. Are there any public comments this evening from anyone in the audience? Okay, then we move from public comments into the report items. The superintendent's discussion groups reports, are there any? Seeing none, move on. The principal's director's reports. Seeing none, Director of Personnel report.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. Just a couple of quick items. First of all, we have 20 positions to fill. We begin posting those tomorrow, and 14 of those will be teachers. So with our recruiting and working with our principals, we'll start that process and getting ready for the 14-15 school year. We have a lot of opportunities to bring some quality people to you for recommendation. Look forward to that opportunity, that challenge. Secondly, in your packet tonight was over the weekend, was the lunch price increase. A couple years ago, the board gave us the approval to go ahead and follow this increase so we can stay within the reimbursement schedule that the DOE has mandated. So the prices for elementary lunch next year will go up 1 dime from $2 to $2.10 per paid lunch. Secondary lunch will move from $2.20 to $2.30. Breakfast a nickel from $1.35 to $1.40, and then all a la carte items will be raised a nickel. So we'll continue to follow that process and monitor those prices, and we'll get that into our principals' hands so they can notify parents and communicate that. And our last item is our retirement dinner for all retirees this year. It will be held May 5th. I believe we received an invitation to that. We had RSVP so we can get our numbers ready to go and get prepared for that. That seems like May is a way off, but it's just a couple weeks away, so it sneaks up on us once again very quickly. So, and that's all I have tonight, Mr. Burchett.
Thank you. Assistant Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. Just 2 things that are really updates from last month. We were hoping to have the digital one-to-one initiative for the high school on today's agenda, but the Finance Committee is meeting tomorrow, so we're going to put that off until the next time that we have to get together. And the other thing was, I also shared with you that the state was having a mandatory core link assessment, which is an assessment given after ISTEP to help build their database of the Common Core tests that they have to take the next year. We got a tweet last week that they've canceled that the state board did not approve or want us to go through with those assessments statewide. So that kind of frees up a week of instruction for us and lets our technology labs in May. So I just wanted to make sure that you were up to date on the last directive we got on the state assessment. Thank you.
Okay. Superintendent's report.
Board, I recently received some communication from the Indiana School Boards Association for recognition for the Fayette County School Corporation Board of School Trustees. As you know, they have some recognition programs based upon points that you earn by going to in-service activities, and this is from the 2011-2012 school year. You were recognized by ISBA as being an outstanding board member. So we have names on a little plaque that will be hanging on the plaque out there that talks about outstanding boards. To be an outstanding board, the majority of board members must have attained at least a level 1 on that CAP system. So congratulations to you. I won't take a lot of time talking about the recent NSBA conference that some of us attended. But I just want to share with you, I know sometimes when we talk about new initiatives and we talk about things that we're going to be doing, people sometimes wondering, do you really look beyond what you're recommending? Do you take opposing views? Do you consider different things? And one of the speakers that we heard, Mikhail Goyal, I mentioned a little bit in the background, is a very, in my opinion, very controversial person who has a different view, very different view on public education. He believes that as a nation we were better educated prior to public schools when the colonies were responsible for raising students. And a couple of statements that he made about Horace Mann, and we recognize Horace Mann as a leader of public education. His statement was Horace Mann's mission was to dumb down society so that we would have a more compliant workforce for the Industrial Revolution. He also said that schools violate many of the provisions of the Geneva Convention. If public schools could be held accountable they could be held accountable for crime against students. So he has a very different way of looking things. He had a presentation as part of a general session, and he did have a breakout session, and I went just to be uncomfortable. I went to just learn what he had to say. I will tell you that public schools are under attack more than they've ever been, and one of the big pushes down there was a campaign that National School Boards has out there is to stand up for public education. I think we're doing a great job when you look at the populations of public schools served, the challenges that we have, and you look at some of the private schools who maybe can be more selective on the student population that they have, when you compare demographics to demographics, public schools perform as well, and most of the times much better than some of these. So we're doing a great job, and I'll tell you, here in Fayette County, our folks are doing a great job, and I'm proud of what they do, but I just want to let everybody know, I don't just read one thing, I do and go listen to what other people have to say. There are a lot of great presentations talking about the difference public schools made in the lives of individuals who were giving testimonials, so to speak. But really, there's a lot of great things happening. Things are changing. We're not on the path that we were on just 2 or 3 short years ago. But I know together we're going to continue to do great things for kids in the future, and I appreciate your support for that. That's all I'll have to say at this point.
Okay. For the good of the cause.
I don't know if many of you know, probably most of you know Hattie Collins. She was a very sweet lady. She volunteered in the school system, mainly over at Eastview Elementary School. For 18 years, she would go over and read to students and etc. She had her homegoing service today. She was 96 years old. She was still, you know, not like she was, but you know, there was a lot of, you know, a lot of good memories. And she loved the kids, and she was very dedicated to come on over and read. And Coy Powell could have told you more about her than anybody, because she mainly during his interim over there. So she was a very special lady. She was laid to rest today. So.
Good, thank you, Mr. Heim. Anybody else have good of the cause? I would just like to say as a follow-up that I really enjoyed the national conference as well, and probably attended a couple sessions that made me think more than ever before. And having been a teacher as well as now as on the school board, I could see both sides, and I didn't know which side that I should be on, but it sure gave me a lot of thinking to do. And Lori and I wound up, out of all the conferences, we wound up in one at the same time, and it was called 7 Myths of Education, and I still haven't gotten over that one. But I will share with you in private if you want to know about it. So, anyway, I guess, anybody else have a good of the cause? Then I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Mr. Spurlock, do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Mr. Hilton. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. We will be...